Let's do a get ready with me. I haven't done these in a while. I want to go through my skincare before I get onto my makeup, so I used this. This is the Secret Key Starting Treatment Essential Mask, and I really like it so far. I think this is a really good option if you kind of want the same thing as SK-II, the one of those treatment masks, but I feel like the SK-II one is a little bit too heavy and a little bit too expensive, so I like this one a lot, so I've been using that. I've also been using these two like toning cleansing pads. I don't know why, I just like wanted to use my pads, I think. So this is the Calm Leaf Rose Moisture Pad, and this is the New Gen Gauze Peeling Wine Pad. This is slightly more physically exfoliating, so I like it at night. Essence, I've been using this Q Organics Clear Skin Treatment Essence. It is 100% vegan and organic. This is not something that I use today, but I also want to show you guys because I've been in love with vegan skincare. It's just been so dope. I don't understand why. I just kind of brushed it off and I was like, oh, it's a gimmick. Not to say that I don't care about animals, but that was always something that I could put down for testing out other brands and seeing if they're good or not. But you know what? Vegan and organic skincare has been so good for just your skin in general. I don't know if it's like the lack of preservatives or like animal derivatives or what. This one I use almost every single night. It's the Vegan Glow Goodnight Cream. I think I talked about it maybe in one of my videos before. But oh my god, it's so good. So I'm currently researching on like vegan skincare and I'm trying to delve more into vegan skincare, possibly makeup. So if you have any suggestions or recommendations for vegan or organic stuff, like just let me know. So I'm gonna start off with primer and a disclaimer that what I'm about to talk about is something pretty difficult to talk about because I can't possibly talk about every single kind of relationship there is. I'm gonna talk about relationships. Hopefully you're able to just like sit down, maybe you're eating, maybe you're also getting ready while I kind of talk. I don't know how y'all feel about get ready with me, but I always feel like I'm always battling products, reviewing them, seeing how they work versus like getting a look versus talking about whatever I'm talking about that day. So today's one is gonna be very topic centric because it's something that I've been wanting to talk about, and I think a couple of conversations and experiences I've had so far make for a really good kind of like starting point to talk about this. This is also new, by the way. This is the Bare Minerals Prime Time Original Foundation Primer. I got this in the vegan beauty book from Beauty Expert, and it's just a bunch of vegan skincare, and oh, that's how I've also been loving it. I'm also gonna be trying out this BB cushion foundation thing. I think I might be a little bit too tan because I think I went hiking, then I just got a bit darker. Even though my parents are not very romantic people, I kind of grew up on sappy like Channel 8 dramas. Growing up as a Singaporean girl, you're just kind of always like, alright, so when should you get married? Like, when should you meet your first love? Everything is very efficient. Or maybe it's just something that my mom kind of said, like, oh, she's like, oh, you know, like, you don't want to get married too young, don't want to get married too old. Like, she always gave me a kind of time frame, and I think because of that I've come to expect certain things or hit certain milestones as I grow older, as time passes. And for me, even though I've been such a romantic, I've always had like a very bad track record at relationships, at dating. It does give a very nice finish, but I do think that it's just a teensy bit too light. I'm gonna grab this. This is the EX1 foundation. It's just a little bit dark for me right now, which is perfect because I need to even this shit out, man. The reason why I wanted to talk about relationships is because I am currently dating someone now. Actually, I'm not so sure. We haven't called it off yet, but it was just not going well. I have a lot of frustrations about it, and it's not him in particular, it's just kind of like dating in general, and also like my past relationship like coming back to haunt me, and also the Tinder date update. I'm just gonna say it now. It was horrible. Oh my god, it was so bad. Mini story time. So after we had that first convo, we were talking about food and films, and I knew that his films and what he likes are very different from me, but he liked a lot of like objectively good films. A very like hyper masculine preference for films, but I was just like, okay, I'm a film student, like I will watch and I will appreciate it for what it is. And of course it's interesting, you know, when you're talking to someone, and we were on the phone, we were just kind of talking, and I felt excited at the fact that he was also very excited to talk to me. From that conversation the last night, things kind of went downhill. Like, I would make a joke and he wouldn't get the reference, or he would say something that I wouldn't get. It was just kind of like a very mismatched kind of wavelength, and I didn't find the conversation like particularly exciting or interesting. For me, it's like, if you have nothing interesting to say, we can don't talk. Like, it's fine. You know, like, I'll just see you when I see you. So we decided to meet at Clarke Quay. Opposite, there was a rooftop bar. It looked really cool, and he was like, you wanna go? And I was like, great, let's go. It was raining really heavily. It was one of like the heaviest days. You know how there's an overhead bridge? The entire thing was soaked because the wind was going like this. So the shelter literally wasn't doing anything. And when I saw it when I got out of the train, I was like, yikes, how are we gonna go to a rooftop bar, you know? So I was like, okay, maybe we should just like hang out at Central, which is on the other side of Clarke Quay where the train is. It's all sheltered, it's a big mall. And there are places to like sit down and chill, have a drink, have a coffee, whatever it is. He was, for some reason, like really insistent on me going to the other side, even though the rooftop bar was closed because it's raining. I don't know at that point, on like a Saturday, like 4 PM or 5 PM, if there were like many bars open in the first place. He kept saying that he was there, and so I was like, fine, I'm just gonna go over. Side note, when I'm talking about bad dates, there's always gonna be people in the comments that are like, just leave, why didn't you leave? I wouldn't have like been able to tolerate that. That's really easy for someone to say when they're not in the situation. And that's easy to say when you are not at risk for being impolite or rude or hurting someone's feelings. I basically was wearing long jeans, a denim jacket, and like a halter top. I walked through the overhead bridge and I was completely drenched. Like I said, like it was this way. The wind and all the rain, it was literally like people like hosing you down. Like that was how heavy it was, and I was drenched completely. I knew that going in that I wasn't particularly like physically attracted to him, but that never bothered me because a first date was getting to know someone and getting to know their personality. I've dated people that I didn't immediately find attractive but grew to find attractive after a while, and I think honestly, like, not being like, oh my god, like I see people past their looks, but like legit, like I liked his personality at that point. Like we had a good phone call, even though the next few days were kind of like weird. I was just like, okay, like let's just hang out, because you know, like if we had a good like phone call and face to face should be pretty good also, right? And he tried to compliment me. The first thing he said to me was, oh, you look really good. The way he said it was immediately very like like just very uncomfortable. Like you just know that he's not really complimenting your outfit, and like the way he was looking at me was like assessing a piece of meat that he wanted to buy. So immediately I was like thrown off, didn't like the vibe, and I was also drenched, and I could tell immediately he wanted like some kind of physical intimacy. I just literally just met you for the first time, so I like, it was just a weird situation. Like I don't know why there was a pressure to touch or be physically intimate in like the first 10 minutes of meeting this person. So I was like, whatever. I asked him like, where did you want to go? Like why are you so insistent on me coming over to this side? And I think it's low-key because he didn't want to cross that bridge because he knew he would get drenched. Literally all of them were closed. There was just like a bunch of office buildings. If you know the Clarke Quay area, you know like Hong Kong Street, like that side, there's like nothing there for a date, you know? For a business meeting maybe, but like I was like, okay, so like what do you want? He was just kind of like, oh, I don't know, like we can just walk around and see what's there. Okay, it's literally thunderstorms right now. There's maybe only like 5 places, shops, if they're even shops, because most of them were like apartment buildings or office buildings. If we were to go to another building to check out what they have, we had to cross a road, and none of us had an umbrella. None of us had like any shelter. It was just open roads. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit pissed off. Like, you made me come over to this side, I'm already drenched, and you want me to get drenched some more to look for a place that you don't really know where we're gonna end up in. So I was like, you know what, let's wait for the rain to come down a little bit. Like, let's just sit down and maybe look around, you know, Google Maps, or see if there are places that are nearby, any good bars nearby that are open right now. Like, let's know where we're going before like we wander around in the open rain. And so I sat down in front of some stairs at some like office building. I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to sit there, but I did it anyway. And he immediately sat like so close to me that our thighs were touching. This was within the first 10 minutes of us meeting, and I was already like, I'm drenched in my own denim, like I'm wearing like the jacket that I had to take off and I was so uncomfortable. So I moved away and he looked offended. I wouldn't say like he was like, oh, but he just like looked mildly offended that I moved away. And then I tried to explain like, dude, like I'm drenched, like you don't want to sit so close to me, you know, I'm feeling really uncomfortable. If you've never experienced like sitting in wet denim, like go and put on a pair of jeans and turn on the shower, because that's exactly how it feels like. It was just very uncomfortable and he like kept like leaning in the first 10 minutes. Like dude, like I was like, oh god, come on. We were trying to look at places and obviously I don't drink. I didn't know where are the good bars. I didn't know the area very well anyway. He wasn't really helping. And so we were just kind of like talking, but now even thinking about it, I don't even know what we talked about because it was just like small talk. The rain wasn't dying down and he really wanted to get a drink and I was like, okay, you know what, let's cross the road. Maybe that looks like there's something there, you know, let's just go and see. We crossed the road, I get even more drenched. It's fine. It's not fine. And then we walked by this bar that was actually really nice. It was kind of like a hole in the wall and I'm pretty sure only like the owners were there. Great, a bar. Let's just not try and look anymore. I'm pretty sure he wanted to continue looking, but I was like, let's not. And then we started talking, but nothing in particular. Again, I think we're talking about Osho, because I think his parents have like some affiliation with Osho. If you have Netflix, you can watch like Wild Wild Country, and I was very intrigued by it because someone else had told me about Osho before and I was like, what is this? Like, it's a cult but not an evil cult, like And so I was kind of listening and I was kind of understanding about it, but I couldn't get over the fact that I always felt uncomfortable with his stare. There's a big difference between looking at someone in the eyes and talking to them and looking at someone with like a very clear agenda. And I don't want anyone to be like, oh, you think you're hot shit, like he's just looking at you like he wants to like eat you out, like why did I say that? That's not a good choice of words. But any other women who have been on dates, you know what I mean when someone is looking at you with a very sexualized glare, not a leer, but just with a very like, they're not really listening to you, they're just kind of like sneaking glances at your chest, you know, looking at you like, how do I wanna, you know, do stuff to you later. Like, it was just that kind of look. Even if I was physically attracted to him, like on the first date, at the first hour, after like being drenched in denim and like having the frustration of following someone who didn't have a plan and then like wanting to find alternatives when there were no alternatives, like I was just very like, not in the zone lah. I was not in a flirting mood. I just wanted to be friendly and get to know that person. He was just kind of like shooting me those looks and like looking at my chest, you know, like it was just kind of weird. It was just a very weird and uncomfortable situation. So I couldn't really get past it. And I'm the kind of person, like, if I'm feeling something on a date or I'm feeling something while I'm dating someone, I feel like I want to voice that out so that we can either like talk about it or like address it. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. And I was sitting here on the date like starting to regret it more and more, because after that 4-hour phone call, which by the way, as it ended, it got kind of awkward. Like, he started telling me stuff that was on his shelf. Like, it was very strange. He was talking a lot about himself that really had no point of a conversation, and there was no back and forth. It was just him telling me about himself. But I just assumed it was after a 4-hour phone call, like you really have nothing else to say. And so I just kind of like zoned out. I'm not attracted to this guy, clearly not attracted to him the same way he's looking at me. It's making me a little bit uncomfortable. How should I approach this? Maybe it's not him, maybe it's me. Like, maybe I'm just not in the mood to date, because like I said, I created that Tinder profile so that I could swipe on people, and maybe I just wasn't like mentally prepared to date. And because he kept looking at me that way like a piece of meat, I was like, okay, like, you know, maybe I should put this out in the open so that maybe he can stop and treat me as a real person. So the conversation went on, and then I meandered, and then I was like, hey, I don't know how you're feeling right now, but I just want you to know that I'm not looking for anything serious. Like, I just would like to get to know you because I thought we had a great conversation, like we could be like great friends and like we could hang out. I'm pretty sure I said it in an even nicer tone, because I could never do that to someone like in their face. I could never like, I don't want to date you, like blah, like that kind. I can't do that. So I don't know what your expectations are from this date, but I'm just letting you know that like I'm not looking to, you know, like date, like don't. I basically said something very polite and very euphemistic about like don't expect sex because it's not gonna happen. Dude, I was saying it so like carefully and slowly. I thought about it for like a good like 5 to 10 minutes of how to say it, and then when I said it, I thought it sounded pretty okay, but he immediately took offense. He immediately got upset, which I kind of was like taken aback. I was like, whoa, like that's a big reaction for me like putting it in such a nice way. And he was like, why would you say that? And I was like, what? that he got really defensive and he like got angry, but you know he was trying to hold back his anger. So he was just like, oh, I really hate this. But he was like, why are you telling me this now? Like, don't people usually say this on the second or third date? Like when you know the person better? And I was like, yes, I know exactly, but it's not about you, it's about my mindset. Like, I just don't think I'm ready to date. I'm just here to get to know you as a person. Like, don't expect anything at the end of the date. And then he said, well, I don't really see this as a first date because I felt like our phone call was already a first date. And I was like, that phone call was a phone call. Like, how can you, what? It was so weird. And then he just like kept trying to like attack what I just said, and he was like, I don't know why you're telling me this now, like blah, blah, blah. I was so flustered and also frustrated at this point. You don't have to take personal offense. Like, he said it as if I rejected him straight up. He was really upset. He just kind of kept going like, you know, I don't really see why like you have to talk about this now, like we're in the middle of a date, like blah blah, blah. And I was like, I'm just telling you how I feel because you can't stop looking at me like that, and I'm like really fucking uncomfortable. And I just like tried to explain like, hey, like, you know, like don't worry about it, like I'm still here, I'm still talking to you, it's just, you know, no. And then after that he was like, I don't want to talk about it, can we not talk about it now? And I was like, okay. And another reason why I had to say it was because he kept looking at me like that and I was getting so uncomfortable. And I do this thing where if someone is hitting on me and I'm uncomfortable, I have to get out of the situation. If not, I become like a bitch. It's just always been something that I've done ever since I was young. Like, if someone likes me, is trying to hit on me, getting very uncomfortable, I'm not attracted to it, I'll be mean to get them to stop. I wasn't doing it like consciously, like I'm gonna be a bitch, but I was just kind of like letting the bad emotions show more. Like, I just wasn't holding back on the emotions. I was kind of like exaggerating it or like letting my emotions show on my face. Even if I wasn't on a date, like I would never do that to a friend. I would never make them feel bad about like the situation that we're in. Yeah, so I just kind of like did that to kind of signal like I'm not having a good time, you know, that kind of thing. After we had that conversation, can we not talk about it? And I was like, okay. We just ended up like continuing the conversation like it didn't happen. And the thing is, on my side, I'm like, alright, he knows about it, but he wants to cut short the conversation because it might be embarrassing, like blah blah. Like, I don't really know what he was feeling. I don't think it's embarrassing because I'm just telling you what page I'm on. Maybe he was upset that I drew to conclusions, but then again, there's no set rule. Like, I can't just give you a verdict at the end of the date and keep giving you like chances to be inappropriate throughout the date. Like, if I'm not feeling it, I could leave halfway, but I didn't. I felt like I needed to make a point. He was making me feel uncomfortable. I'm glad I made that point. Even though I wasn't wearing anything like this, I was wearing a halter top so you couldn't see my chest. He was still kind of looking, and so I decided to just wear the wet jacket on top, which was why I was also feeling so uncomfortable, because I was already like so uncomfortable and then I was more uncomfortable. So we continued that conversation and I kind of relaxed after a while. I was like, I'm not gonna, like, it's really tiring being rude and mean, so I was just like, whatever, I'm just gonna be myself. The thing with going on dates nowadays that I realized, I don't know if it's something that they want to impress me with or they just like don't know how to date, but most of the guys that I've dated this year all like talk about themselves non-stop. There's no like, how about you? There's no like, oh yeah, like I heard like this is that. Like, they would talk extensively about themselves. There's another guy that I kind of saw once, and he was talking about like his secondary school swimming days. I was like, my god, you're like 27. You're still talking about stuff that you did when you were 15, like what? Oh my god, I love this palette, the Born to Run palette. Why are people not talking about this? This is the best thing ever. I was thrown off because he was talking so much, but I didn't particularly mind because as someone who writes and creates things, you know, I just like hearing about other people and how they live their life. We were just kind of talking and I was just like, interesting, okay, this is your life. And we were also talking about food and like recommendations for food. So, you know, we went back on the right track during the date. When I, you know, make small talk with like the bartender or my server, for example. I remember she was a very beautiful woman and I was like, wow, you're like stunning, holy shit, your skin, wow. I think he got kind of thrown off. I don't know whether he was intimidated that I was making conversation. There's no reason to be, but I found him like kind of jumping on the train, like trying to be like, haha, I'm in the conversation too, but it was always like very awkward and it was just ill-timed. Then that happened, and then after that we went to get dinner at this place. I think it's called something Abata, I think. It's really good handmade pasta, very authentic for a really good price. And I've been wanting to try it, and then he recommended it. I was like, hey, like I'm hungry, like do you wanna go? Like, let's go. And after one drink, after my denim eventually kind of dried, I was like, okay, I'm feeling a lot better. And I know I had the jacket on, so I think after a while, like, he stopped staring at my chest. I was like, great, let's go get pasta. So we went. After that, like, when we had pasta, it was nice. Like, it was chill, we were talking. But the thing is, I didn't know. I was thinking of him and talking to him like he was a friend, but the whole time, turns out he was like, you know, thinking something completely different, and he was doing the same thing with the conversations. So we ordered the food, and then I was like, hey, do you want to try the dessert? Because the dessert looks good, and the food was good, so I just assumed that it was good. And then the person that took my order turned out to be the owner, and I was like asking about the photos on the wall, and he was like, yeah, like these are actually family members, and we're just kind of like taking a tour of the place and talking about how he came out of the restaurant and how he's working with his wife, like blah blah blah. And the thing is, like, we were having a really great conversation, and he was just doing the same thing, like butting in at the wrong time, like kind of throwing everyone off. It was kind of weird. I get that there was an effort to kind of include yourself in the conversation, but I think the way he did it was very forceful. I think he interrupted like the owner several times, which was kind of rude also. So I was just kind of like, ugh, like this guy, come on. And so at the end of the meal, I was like, alright, like it's fine. Because I just assumed that he already knew that I'm not interested in him in that way, and that I would just like hang out with him as a friend, and like I didn't mind, like I have rude ass friends also. I'm like, okay, fine. He just maybe has a little bit of a low EQ situation, like maybe lah. Oh, it gets good. I think the thing for him that was really difficult to understand, that it wasn't a bad interaction. It wasn't a bad conversation. It wasn't a good conversation, but it wasn't bad. And the biggest thing for me is I just wasn't attracted to him. I wasn't attracted to his personality. I wasn't attracted to his looks. I wasn't attracted to the way he conducted himself that night. I just wasn't attracted to him. Like, I would have hung out with him as a friend. It's something that I feel like a lot of guys in particular struggle to understand. Like, just because you had a good time doesn't mean that you're suitable to date. Just because you like the same things doesn't mean you're soulmates. Like, it's just like that. That's just dating. If a guy maybe met me and goes like, okay, yeah, like we had a good conversation, but I just don't know if our dynamics would work, if I don't know if I like her in a way that I want to date her, that's completely okay. I wouldn't be offended because that's just a preference. Like, I wouldn't be offended that you don't want to date me because you would prefer to date someone else that has another dating style or has another personality that you feel that you want to date more. Okay, so going back to the story, we're done with dinner. We're like thanking the owner, I'm like saying bye to the wife, I'm like, okay, heading out. And then as I'm literally opening the door and I step out, like I haven't even crossed outside. We've had no physical contact, okay? I walked out, and the moment my right foot that went forward steps on like the grill in between the door, you know, going out, I hear like from behind me, Brenda, I think I'm really attracted to you. Can I kiss you? And I was like, immediately my face was like, huh? On so many levels, that was so confusing because one, there's no indication that the date was going in that way. If anything, it should be more than clear that we're just friends. There was no chemistry. We had an okay conversation about his life. Nothing particularly romantically or sexually interesting about that date. Like, there was literally nothing. And also the timing was just really weird. Like, I wasn't even outside. I was literally walking and he was behind, you know. I was like, I have one hand on the door, one foot on the thing. I'm walking out. To hear that is so weird. Like, wouldn't you want to say that to someone's face if you're really having a good time? It just, to me, it seemed as if like he had made plans in his head. Like, okay, you know, once we leave the restaurant, right, I'm gonna ask her to kiss her. It's so weird, it's so unnatural, and it's also so calculating, which makes me confirm all of my beliefs that he was looking at me like a piece of meat the entire time. He was not listening to what I was saying or like plotting something. Like, why? There was no chemistry. Like, why would you say that? You know what I mean? Like, it's just weird. I like turned around to be like, huh? But he was like, he literally, okay, I'm pretty sure he expected me not to say no. He was already like this close to my face. It was a shophouse kind of area, so the place to stand out in front was really small. And I don't know why he decided to do it when the owners were in full view of us. We were like the last customers. It's a shop front, so it's completely like all glass, and they were obviously looking at us to say goodbye. And it was just weird. I felt like he wanted to prove a point. So I turned around to be like, huh? But he was already like really close to me. And there was no way I could stop it. You know, I don't know if his hand was behind me or it was, but basically he was like leaning into me, he was already going for it. And because I was so confused and kind of in shock almost, my eyes were like open. I was like, what? And then he went for it and I saw his face. I saw him like really like going at it, like trying to give me his all, like giving it his best shot. And I was like, nope. And then as he pulled away, like, I was like, wow, I have never been so unattracted to someone in my life. Like anyone that I've ever kissed in my life. And so almost instinctively, I like wanted to double check. So I like literally leaned in for another peck and I was like, oh, like, okay, I didn't do that IRL, but in my head I was like, ah! And then I kind of turned and walked away. I like had the like really awkward nervous giggle like and then walked away. And then he was walking behind me. Oh my god. And immediately he goes, so I don't know why, like, do you just not have your phone with you? Like, why don't you reply my messages? And I'm like, what the fuck? Right after the kiss and an awkward silence, like, that's immediately what you say? Like, that's so weird. And we hadn't texted, we were there for hours. Did you already have that on your mind? Are you like, just now suddenly going all crazy on me just because now that we've kissed you think that you can ask me why don't I reply your messages? And I was like, actually you don't reply my messages, I reply your messages. And then he was like, yeah, well, I just like didn't reply because I felt like you weren't really invested in the conversation, like you didn't really want to reply, and so I just didn't reply. But what's going on? And I was like, oh my god. I was, oh, the amount of cringe, I'm telling you, I would have grinded my teeth into dust. I was like, listen, I was at an event yesterday. I'm busy. Like when I'm online replying on WhatsApp messages, I'm replying to a bunch of people. And the fact that I even bothered to reply you means a lot. Sometimes when I see something, I'm just like waiting. Or like, I'm gonna reply them better, you know, give them the attention they deserve like later, and then I end up forgetting. Or there are just like way too many to look at. Or I just have to reply really quickly because I'm doing something else. For him to suddenly just like shoot that in my face like it was my fault and demand why I didn't reply him. No, I'm sorry, properly reply him, and like why I only gave him like half-hearted replies. I was like, wow, I'm so done with this guy. Like, yo, you kiss me asking for my permission but not really because you didn't give me a chance to reply. You look at me like a piece of meat the entire night. You talk about yourself your entire night. You butt into other people's conversations. It's kind of rude. And then the whole time you're just acting like super entitled to the date. Like, I'm not attracted to you. Can you tell? And also I couldn't get it out of my head that he was so disrespectful when I tried to tell him like how I was feeling about the date. So after I tried to explain that my life doesn't center around him in the nicest way possible, he was like, okay, so what do you want to do after this? And I was like, go home, be away from you, god. From his tone, I could kind of tell that he wanted to come over because he knew that I lived alone. And in my head, I was like, wow, over my dead body. So I was like trying to come up excuses. I was like, I have a really early day tomorrow. Like, then he was like, oh yeah, like I have a... I was like, alright, so I think I should head back. He was like, so when do you want to meet? Like, he was already trying to make plans. And I was like, I'm really busy. Like, I maybe like next week. And then I was gonna try and find a way to like text him and say I don't want to date you. I think he was trying to be sweet, but it was like pseudo complaining that I couldn't see him as often as he wanted. And so finally when we went to the MRT, I think he wanted to go in for another kiss, but I was like, the train's coming up, bye! And then I just like ran off. I think maybe I gave him like a bro hug, but I just like, if I did, I wish I didn't. And then I'm gonna pause on my makeup because I want to show you guys the conversation. I'm not gonna show you all the messages because his number and his name is there, but I want to say, as I'm scrolling to find the messages after the date, the messages that I was sending him the one day before that he complained that I wasn't like properly replying him, he was sending me 2 words. And I would reply him in proper sentences, so I don't know what the hell he was talking about. I texted at 1, OMG, I'm still so freaking full. He replied, TBH, I could still stuff myself a bit more. I eat a lot. In Bali, people at my hostel were so surprised. They were like, how the fuck do you eat so much? Never talked about Bali. It just came out from nowhere. Like, he has a lot of weird instances where he would like, it's just a weird random flex out of nowhere, and I was like, alright, great. But you're small, so you get full, fa fa fa. Didn't reply. at 6 p.m. that day. And then he said, dude, I saw the Tinder video. You're so cute. Keyboard spam. It's so fascinating and weird to see the other side. Like the thought process behind all of it. But like, quite cute, dude. And then, damn it. Kinda sucks I can't see you this week. But it was slightly odd to hear someone talking about my Tinder to thousands of people. So many eyes on me. I mean, I know, not literally, but I was like, OMFG, it me. And then I was like, oh my god, you're gonna make my video about you too? He's made everything about him, so I'm just like, wow. So I said, haha, it was ridiculous. And then he replied, what was ridiculous? And then I was like, the Tinder bios? And then he was like, yeah, I know all those pitfalls. I actually asked my female friend to rate my Tinder. She was quite helpful, lol. She changed around the photos. And then I was like, yeah, I mean, they aren't bad. And every assessment is subjective, you know? And then I was like, by the way, name? And then he replied, truly. And then I said, I feel like we'd make better friends. And then he said, ah, damn, that's a bit disappointing. I'm quite attracted to you. I think you could tell. Yeah, but I don't think it's mutual. And then he said, I kind of figured when you just skipped. It sounds so cliche, but yeah, I was a bit uncomfortable. And then he said, yeah, that's okay, I get it. And he said, I'm sorry, didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. I was like, it's okay, it just felt a bit IDK, no romantic vibes there for me. And then he said, yeah, I get that. And then I was like, but we got along well as people, so I'm still down for food if you are. And then, oh, this is my best part. He jumps in with, I don't think this has long-term romantic potential, but I was hoping for a casual, chill FWB situation. And then I was like, Tinder? Oh, lol. And then he replied and said, it takes two to tango here, am I right? No, I meant, I don't think you and I vibe long-term romantic types. You're rejecting my rejection? It's so weird for him to say like, it takes two to tango, right? As if like, I don't understand that it's not mutual, like what mutual means, even though I'm telling him that it's not mutual. And so I replied to the tango one with, yeah, but don't worry, you'll find a partner with a couple more swipes. And then he said, oh lol, I actually have 2 partners already, emoji. Was just very attracted to you, so that's why. But no worries, I'm sorry I didn't read the room too well. I knew he's so cringy. I knew I had aired when you skipped. I didn't reply for 2 minutes, and then he replied, if I may ask, what made you uncomfortable? And then I replied to the 2 partners already with weird flex, but okay. And then he was like, what? How? And then I was like, I didn't see the night progressing in a romantic or sexual way, so the request to kiss outside the pasta place literally came out of nowhere. And then he was like, oh okay, I'm sorry I didn't read the room too well. Best of luck with your career, and I guess I'll see you when I see you. I was like, alright, cheers mate. I wouldn't say he's the worst date ever, but I feel like this is a pattern with very entitled guys who date and just assume that because he seems to think that there's chemistry that I kind of owe him a date, I owe him a bang, like that kind of weird situation, and it just makes women on our end very uncomfortable to reject them. And this is the same guy that has been complaining that the last few girls were like either already had boyfriends or like ghosted on him, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna promise you I'm not gonna ghost you. So take the rejection like a fucking champ, dude, come on! Don't do this whole salty weird like, I already have 2 partners already, but I wanted to sleep with you, okay? Like, that's all you were good for. Like, what the hell? It was just such a weird and bad and really like awkward experience. And I felt really sad because I'm not trying to be like I'm gonna like friend zone you. I'm letting you know that I don't think we're compatible as people who are dating. Or I'm letting you know that we'll be better as friends. So you couldn't even respect me enough to be okay with the prospect of friendship. So that left a really, really bad taste in my mouth. I wasn't even angry, I was just kind of like, oh, like that. Because it's such a like typical response, and this is coming from someone who thinks that he's a feminist, that thinks that he's like a super sensitive, like progressive guy. Clearly not lah, but he thinks that he is. So it just worries me that all these like progressive boys or like soft boys or whatever you want to call them, they're not as progressive as they think they are, because they're just super misogynistic at the end of the day, and they don't understand that like you should treat your date as an equal partner who has equal say in whether they want to date you or not. And I knew that for a while he was kind of stalking my social media, so I didn't want to post this because I didn't want him to get all this extra attention that he was clearly getting a high off of. Oh, actually I posted this entire conversation on Twitter because people were asking me about the update so much, and I kind of posted it the same day of, or like one day later, about this conversation and be like, men, if you don't want women to ghost you, take it like a champ, don't do this. It just makes everyone feel bad, it just makes everyone feel uncomfortable. Like, it was just very rude and just very entitled. I blocked out every single one of his numbers except for one reply right at the bottom. He has his name there. He was the one that literally pointed it out to me. He was like, can you remove this? My name, bottom right? And I was like, phew. I didn't reply, but I took it down. And I considered not taking it down because I was like, if you can say it, I can post it, you know what I mean? But I just don't want that. The point of this story, the point of that tweet was not to shame him as a person. It was to kind of bring to attention how guys can be really entitled when it comes to dating. If you're a guy watching this and you're not like that, first of all, you might not be aware that you're like that. But second of all, don't take offense, because I say guys in this way because I don't see the same kind of entitlement that women have. When women date, like, we're usually a bit more like, okay, can we tell that he's attracted to me, like, before we move on, like, you know, that kind of thing. There's always a little bit more of a consideration on the other person's end, and that's because we're taught to be like that in dating. Like, we're taught to, you know, behave ourselves, like be polite, like be sweet, be blah blah blah. And I feel like guys don't really have the same kind of education. I just think that it's a problem that some men don't even realize that it's a problem, because women don't usually speak up about why certain dates didn't work. You know, a lot of guys like to go, oh, yeah, I just got friend zoned, like, I don't know why, she was a bitch. Girls aren't as vocal as guys about why dates don't work out because it's embarrassing, and because girls and women are so afraid of rejecting guys who either will become like this kind of rude. I think he was trying really hard not to be rude, but you can agree with me that this response was really rude. A lot of women, when they decide they don't want to date someone, instead of kind of voicing it out and letting them know why, we just want to be so polite that we either ghost them to avoid the confrontation, or we say things like how I did, like, I think we'll make better friends. Like, you know, we do super like euphemism kind, and we don't really say what exactly they did, because usually they will deny it. They're like, no, I didn't, that was never my intention, like, you just saw it wrongly. Instead of apologizing for their actions, it was like apologizing for the way you feel. So that was what happened with the Tinder date. I don't want to talk about it anymore because there's nothing to talk about. We haven't spoken since, and he was just a very unpleasant dude. So I basically worked through the entire story time pretty much only doing my eyeshadow. Love this color. I think it's super pretty. So I don't know if dating online is really my cup of tea, but then again, I do everything online. I also don't have school anymore. I don't have a workplace that I work from. And even for Go Mago and stuff, the stocks are here. I shoot in my own place, and it just makes sense for me to work from home, but it does get kind of alienating and lonely sometimes. So I use Tinder as a way to meet people, but I'm very kind of jaded, I guess, from how bad the date was and how frequently bad these dates have become. And to be very honest, I really very rarely meet the people that I actually find on Tinder, because I only meet them if I'm sure that like we're gonna like hang out and have a good time, because I don't want to be in any more of these situations. And I don't know if you know this, but my ex-boyfriend, the one serious relationship I've been in, we met on Tinder as well. So I don't know how to date in real life. I feel like in real life, I don't register when people are flirting with me or like getting to know me. I don't really understand. And most of the time, when I meet people now, it's on a very professional basis. So they meet me as wordweed. So no one really hits on me. And with other women, I don't register as someone who would date other women. So I don't really get attention from women. Even when I'm like hitting on women straight up, like they don't realize it. And I'm like, oh my god. It does get very disheartening because I don't have a proper outlet to meet people. And I'm not gonna join no freaking club mixers. I'm not that kind of person, and I'm not someone that just wants to date because I'm bored. Like, I want to date someone that I am excited about. I don't want to settle. That's the thing. I don't feel like I have a need to settle, but also at the same time, I have so much love to give. I haven't been in a relationship for a while, and I think the previous relationship kind of screwed me over for a lot of what I'm supposed to expect, I think, and what's supposed to be in a relationship. So especially for someone that is trying to date exclusively online, it's really hard. I am seeing someone now. I really don't know what's going on. His dating style and my dating styles are not compatible. I am fighting every bone in my body not to kind of like give up on him, because I like him as a person a lot, and we again like the same things, but are we gonna be soulmates, like that kind of thing. I think he is someone that wants to date casually, but I've always been the kind of person that, like, if I'm dating you, you will become a part of my life and I will take you into consideration. Like, you will be one of my priorities. But for him, it was just kind of like, oh, my priorities are gonna be like, you know, this and that and family and all. If I have more time, I'll hang out with you and I'll talk to you. And while I respect that and I respect him, and I gotta say, of all of the guys that I've dated online, this is one of the better ones. I'm just kind of stuck because I'm like, I want someone who's not afraid to be affectionate and vulnerable or candid with me. He also said that he's consistently trying to hold back, because he said that he has a tendency in his past like relationships or dating situations where he gets too excited too fast, like, you know, he gets too serious too fast, or he's too affectionate too fast and it scares people off. And for me, it's like I was in a very unhealthy, very toxic and kind of pretty abusive relationship. I have experienced, oh my god, I'm gonna try and maintain my chill. Even talking about it, like I'm still, it's a bit of PTSD. I've talked about it with my counselor. I'm starting to see a counselor because I think I was just really, with the added stress of YouTube and with the added stress of you know, having so many people watching you and commenting on you, and me commenting on me, and having my own house, having to manage and learn all of these like financial things from scratch, being out of school, having no community, trying my best to build a community, and then knowing that like the influencer kind of realm has a tendency to become very shallow and very superficial, and it scares me. And I am someone that grew up basically hand in hand with anxiety and depression and bouts of like OCD, and so there was a time where I felt like I couldn't do it, and it's really been helping. And I know that, you know, relationships, you know, online dating, we're kind of going off topic here, but I feel like it's very important to talk about. And I was still a little bit scared because I didn't know how people would take it. I don't want people that just saw this video for the first time and are like, oh, she's crazy, no wonder she's getting all of these bad dates. I'm just someone that experiences a lot at this point, and it's very stressful. And I've also, you know, been in the really abusive, kind of a traumatic relationship. So dating for me is very difficult. It's very difficult for me to trust someone. It's very difficult for me to manage my expectations, especially when I see something is going well, or when I see behavior or patterns in someone that I'm dating that is consistent or similar or reminds me of my ex, because I'm just like, oh my god, you know, like I want to run. Like, I want to chop off my arms if that will make me run faster, you know, that kind of thing. Like, it scares me so much. I would definitely pick up about, you know, toxic relationships, unhealthy relationships, because I realized that they're not as rare or as uncommon as one would think they are. I recently had a talk with a friend that was going through basically exactly what I was going through. I couldn't, like, seeing her cry, feeling like I knew exactly what she needed to do, but I knew that like she needed a lot of strength to do it, which is to break up with him. Duh. Broke my heart into pieces. And I realized that this kind of situation happens a lot with other women, because she also kind of talked about how her friends are all like, oh yeah, like that's happened to me before, or like, yeah, you know, I just didn't say anything because could I just get used to it? A lot of abusive relationships center around whether the woman can just deal with it, and it takes a lot of courage to break out of that routine and go, I'm worth better. Because you know what? Ever since I've left that relationship, even though it was horribly abusive, like my brain still always thinks like, like what if I stayed? A lot of like stupid ideas like, oh, I'm never gonna find someone that loves me as much as he does. You know, he always used to say that. There's always the fear of the unknown, and that fear, personally, is compounded by 2-3 years of dating after that relationship that's been consistently worse than when we first started out lah, like that dating scene, you know. So I'm just like, oh my god, I'm scared, because I don't know if I'm ever gonna be able to be with someone that I love, that I can have a partnership with, that I can have kids with. So being 23 and never having seen what a healthy relationship looks like, and continually idolizing, no, not idolizing, idealizing, and you know, experiencing so many bad dates, it gets tiring and it gets kind of sad sometimes. I know that everyone has a different timeline. People find the people that they want to be with like at different times in their lives, and you know, sometimes it's just, you never know. And I also know that if I really wanted to settle, I can probably find someone to settle down with, but I just don't want anything less than the best. I don't want to have to pick at someone for the rest of their lives. I don't want to have to think like, what if someone better came along, you know? I hope no one takes this as like a very unfeminist way to look at life, that I have to be with a man. First of all, it doesn't have to be a man. Second of all, it's about having a partnership with someone. It's about building a real healthy human relationship, which is something that I've not exactly experienced before. So I feel like it's a very big part of life, and I feel like I would like to experience that, which is why I haven't like completely given up. Sometimes I date, sometimes I go on Tinder, sometimes yeah, it just happens, I guess. And in this case, why I haven't told this guy that I'm seeing that I don't want to see him anymore. I don't know, like, does it help to kind of put this into the universe? Like, I want to date someone that doesn't treat me as an afterthought. I think that would be great. It would be stupid for me to say, oh, I'm not interested in that, because who wouldn't be? I have the baby version of this like Becca highlighter in opal. I'm just gonna... I guess the point of this video is online dating, yes, may not be the best way to meet people, but it's still a way to meet people. With having all of these bad experiences, even with, you know, the relationship that I was in, yes, it was a bad relationship, but I am glad that now I know what I don't want in a relationship. Now I know when to spot red flags earlier. Now I can tell like what kind of person I would work best with, I'm compatible with, what kind of behavior not to tolerate. And this whole video was inspired by something that I kind of tweeted that resonated with a bunch of people that I didn't know would resonate with. It's about like dating and wanting to be with someone but also being self-sufficient. I kind of talk about how I am at dating. To be fair, I am really horrible at dating. I don't date very often, like I said. And most of the dates that I've been in have been very bad, even though I date very rarely. So it's kind of scarred me a little bit for life, yeah? Because of my bad like track record of how dates have gone, and also being in a very toxic relationship, I am always super extra nervous, super extra pessimistic. So I just become this really subpar version of myself on dates. I can never be comfortable. I'm not myself. Like at the end of the day, I'm always like, ugh, like why that was not me. And it's difficult, it's frustrating, because I also don't date friends. So the people that I date are usually people that I meet for the first time, especially on first dates, and they scare me. Like first dates scare me, not the people, but also a bit of the people. I'm gonna try this now. This is the Dear Dahlia lipstick. It's a very casual kind of coral color. It's very pretty. I got this on Yes Style. It is quite bright, so I use my fingers to smudge it out instead of applying the whole thing. Ooh, it's super comfortable, super moisturizing. I'm gonna add Come On Sis. Because it's kind of like a purplish pink hue, I think it kind of cancels out and makes it a little more neutral. Okay. So as I was saying, you know, when you're dating and you're like, oh, I wish I could be myself. And I kind of was telling my best friend about it, and she was like, it's okay. You're not comfortable on the first go. There's no point in forcing yourself to be comfortable with someone that you've clearly never met before. You know, it just doesn't make sense for you to unrealistically expect that of yourself. Especially with like second, third dates, like you don't know if it's going well, like you don't know how he's feeling. It's always a case of how much effort do I want to put in before he walks away? Like, is it really worth it? Like, do I want to get my hopes up? Like, like, oh no, you know, there have been so many times where I'm always like thinking like, oh, is he gonna leave? And I've been the one that has left most of these like dating situations. I kind of combat this like subpar situation by asking myself like, okay Brenda, what's the worst that can happen? I put so much pressure on myself in particular to make the relationship work, to make the dating thing work. So I asked myself like, what's the worst that can happen? Are they dating other people at the same time? Like, you know, what if he prefers them? Like, yeah, okay, what if he prefers them? If he prefers them, then great. Like, I hope they work out, you know? That clearly wasn't meant for you. What if eventually they just like give up? They just like start not replying, don't put in the effort because they just don't like me enough. Like, okay. I can't force someone to like me, and I wouldn't want to force someone to like me. I wouldn't want someone to feel like they're obligated to reply me all the time. If they ghost on me straight up, then okay, good riddance. I don't need a ghoster in my life. You know what I mean? Like someone who can't even be polite enough to be like, hey, maybe not, you know, like you want to be friends, or like let's just not hang out, that's okay. I just rationalize these situations and I really think through it. I'm like, okay, what if this guy that I'm currently seeing now, like what if he just doesn't speak to me ever again? I'm like, it would suck because he's one of the better ones and I do like him as a person. I'm physically attracted to him, so I'm just like, okay, I'll meet other people that I'm physically attracted to. I'll meet other people that I want to date. It's okay. You can't force someone to like you. You can't force someone to be excited to talk to you. It's just like not a thing. I have mentioned to this guy that I was seeing, like I said, that I was like, I don't really like it that we're just kind of doing this small talk thing throughout the day, and it's literally like, hi, how's your day? Good? Okay, bye. Like we really don't talk about anything, and I was like, hey, I would love to get to know you through the texting and stuff. Like I know you're busy, I'm busy too, but if we have like nothing to say, like I would rather not say anything at all. And he basically just said like that's him as a person and that's how he dates, so I should very kindly deal with it. And so I'm asking myself like, do I really want to deal with it, or do I just not want to date him in general? And I'm still kind of thinking about it. I think there's more at stake than there actually is sometimes in my brain, because you know, like when you're younger, like dating is such a huge deal. So I'm trying to like get rid of that slowly. I'm trying to like just, you know, ask myself what's the worst that can happen, and that kind of helps manage my expectations. That kind of chills me out, and that kind of manages like the idealist brain in my head, the raging hopeless romantic that's like, I'm gonna find my soulmate. That's how I feel about dating. That's how I am with online dating, and that's my story. So I hope you guys like it. My face is already done. It's been done for a while. Yeah, feel free to let me know in the comments if you like this video. Don't forget to click the thumbs up, subscribe. I will be back here to talk about toxic relationships and dating types and all that kind of thing. I think it's interesting to talk about. If you have any thoughts, just like let me know in the comments. You know I'm there. You know I'm reading the comments. Like I'm always replying to your stuff. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you like this Get Ready With Me. It's probably like really long. I'm gonna go. Bye.